welcome to Back to the Whiteboard, where we try to impart a little bit of knowledge for you guys to see if you can do better in your lives. As always, I would like to encourage you guys to do your own research on all of this, not just take our word for it, but hopefully we can make you think a little bit. So today we're going to talk about a carbohydrate insulin hypothesis, which is kind of the new, well, not the new craze, but the new craze with us in regards to it. So what we're working on now is overconsumption of fat hypothesis, or the LDL cholesterol causes heart disease hypothesis. And so I thought I'd just take you back to where that all began and where we are today with it. So back in the 50s, they were trying to figure out what was causing heart disease. One of the key scientists back then, by the name of Ancel Keys, decided to go do a big study, got some funding, and across the world they did a study that ended up calling the 7-country study. It was done on a lot more than 7 countries. So they went around, had a lot of big team, and they were doing blood draws and measuring cholesterol and heart disease and measuring how much saturated fat people were taking. They did that on about 20 countries. So they had data over quite a few years on 20 countries. But his Ancel Keys hypothesis was that saturated fat increased your LDL cholesterol, which in turn made you get heart disease, and that's why heart disease is there. So he hand-selected 7 countries and called it the 7-country study, and he hand-selected the ones that had a good correlation. They had a lot of saturated fat, they had a lot of heart disease, and so they put those 7 studies in that, showed a graph that had a good correlation between saturated fat and heart disease. The only problem with that is in the 20 countries, if you put them all together, it just looked like a big mess, and there's really no correlation between saturated fat. And in fact, you could have grabbed another 7 countries out of that, other than those ones, and you could have found a correlation that the higher consumption of saturated fat reduced heart disease. So he selected the ones that were coincided with his hypothesis, so he could push that. He was obviously high up in the government at that stage, so that kind of stuck then. And then that led into the dietary recommendations starting in probably the 60s to 70s of reduced fat. Right? Some of you would remember when that all came in: low fat this, low fat that, reduce your cholesterol, reduce your saturated fat consumption. And what that actually did is, obviously, because we took away saturated fat, we had to replace it with something, so it got replaced with carbohydrates. Right? So we've been taught that, and right, it's not, I guess, our fault. That's what we were taught. We were taught to reduce our fat, eat more carbohydrates so that we didn't get sick and have a heart attack. But what has actually happened, and we know that now, is that obviously obesity has now climbed, skyrocketed, and with obesity comes type 2 diabetes, comes heart disease, comes fatty liver, and we can see those correlations now. So like the humans, or the human race, we got it wrong. And it's exactly opposite. It's not fat that's making us sick, right? It's sugar. And if you really want to go research it, you can find all the papers that showed it was sugar, and you could see the fight between Ancel Keys and a whole bunch of other scientists between fat and sugar. It just happens to be that fat won that fight, and that's what got pushed out by all the government agencies, and obviously as good humans in society, we followed it, and then we became obese, right? So once the obesity started climbing and the sickness started climbing, then they had to come up with another reason of why we were getting obese. And if we were reducing our fat and doing what they're told, and then they all of a sudden said, well, we're eating too much and we're not working out enough, right? So what you need to do now is eat less, work out more. So that was the new hypothesis, the energy balance, calories in, calories out. Eat less, work out more, right? But that didn't work. It hasn't worked, doesn't work, because a calorie is not a calorie, right? What goes in your mouth has to be good food, right? So even if you think you're getting your macro split correct, right, and you're eating processed foods, vegetable oils, it's not going to work for you. Doesn't, never will, never last. All right? So what we need to reduce, and we need to go off to we need to have a look at our carb insulin hypothesis, right? We need to realize that we need to increase our fat and reduce our sugar so that we have the correct energy in our body and our body's doing the right thing. So what we need to do is reduce our carbs, which will then lead to reduce in insulin, which will then lead to less fat storage because insulin stores sugar. So we reduce the sugar, we have less insulin, we don't need to store it, and then we can start reducing our chronic disease.